So prokaryotic cells. Prokaryotes come from the Greek words that mean before nucleus. This is because prokaryotic cells lack a membrane-enclosed nucleus, unlike eukaryotic cells. They have no compartmentalization because of this. For example, in eukaryotic cells, we have the membrane-enclosed nucleus, we have, for example, the Golgi apparatus, all these different compartments within the cell, but the prokaryotic cell doesn't have any of that, which means that it's much more simple, but it can live in extreme environments, so it's much more adaptable than eukaryotic cells, relating to survival in extreme environments. Prokaryotic cells, there are two categories of prokaryotic cells, bacteria and archaea. Prokaryotic cells are thought to have derived from the first types of bacteria. They can be classified as gram-positive or negative, depending on whether or not they can retain purple dye. This is to show us whether or not they are antibiotic resistant. These are two pictures of example. This, for example, is prokaryotic cells from dental plaque. As you can see, they have different shapes. They can be very different from one another, but they do have the general structure. This is a general structure. This is a typical rod-shaped bacterium. It's the one most commonly used when talking about when representing prokaryotic cells. As you can see on the inside, there is no compartmentalization. We just have the nucleoid region, which is where the DNA is found. Then we have the cytoplasm, where there are loads of ribosomes to synthesize polypeptides. And the cytoplasm is where all the metabolism occurs. This is the site of metabolism within the prokaryotic cell. It can have, it has a cell wall. Prokaryotic cells have cell walls because since they're unicellular organisms, it provides support and protection. They can have, often bacteria have this glycocalyx, which is an outer gelatinous covering. It can or cannot have that capsule, which is generally formed by glycocalyx. It can or cannot, but it often does have a flagella, which allows for motility, so it allows for certain bacteria to swim. And again, it can or cannot, but sometimes, most of the times, it has pili, which allows bacteria to attach to surfaces or to each other. For example, this is one of the ways that they reproduce. Eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotes comes from the Greek words that mean true nucleus. This is because unlike prokaryotic cells, eukaryotes have a nucleus, have a membrane-enclosed nucleus. When talking about eukaryotes, we include protists, fungi, plants, and animals. They are larger than prokaryotes and are also more complex organisms. They can be single cells or part of a multicellular organism. This is also to show that there are different types of eukaryotic cells, different forms. For example, this is a human nerve cell, and this is a paramecium, so it's an organism that lives in pond water quite often. Here I also wanted to show something that I'm going to mention more up ahead, but I wanted to show this picture to illustrate. This paramecium has a vacuole, sorry, but it's not a vacuole like the plant vacuoles. It is a contractile vacuole. This means that because these creatures these organisms live in pond water, they can take up the water because their membranes are not fully impermeable, so they can take up water. For them not to take up too much water and burst, what happens is that they get these contractile vacuoles to take up the water, and then they can just travel to the plasma membrane of the paramecium and take out water as waste. This guarantees their survival. This is an example of an animal cell, of an animal eukaryotic cell. I'm going to just generally talk about each of their parts, although I will talk in a later video about the independent parts. We first have a nucleus, which is the area where most of the genetic material is organized and expressed. It is enclosed by the nuclear envelope, which is a double membrane that encloses the nucleus, and this envelope has several nuclear pores, which allow passageways for molecules to go into and out of the nucleus, particularly, for example, mRNA. Particularly mRNA, it's the most important one, I think. And then it also has a nucleolus, which is site for ribosome subunits assembly. It has chromatin, which is a complex of protein and DNA. It's made up basically that, and it's where all the genetic material are organized, so it has to do with DNA. And then we have the rough endoplasmic reticulum, which is the site of protein sorting and secretion. We also have the smooth ER, so the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which is where the site of detoxification and lipid synthesis. The rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes attached to it, whereas the smooth one doesn't, which is why the rough one appears to have a rough surface because of all the ribosomes, hence the names. Ribosomes, there are also free ribosomes in the cytoplasm. They're a site of polypeptide synthesis. We also have lysosomes, which are where macromolecules are degraded. We also have the cytosol, which is the site of many metabolic pathways. We have centromeres, also in the cytoplasm, which is where microtubules grow and centrioles are found. This is very important in cell division. We also have the cytoskeleton, which are protein filaments that provide for shape and aid in movement. We also have mitochondria floating around. They're important for ATP synthesis, so they provide energy for the cell, for cell activities. There's also the Golgi apparatus, which is a site of modification, sorting, and secretion of lipids and proteins. And peroxisomes, which is where hydrogen peroxide and other harmful molecules are broken down. I'll show a plant cell, and then in another video I'll talk more in detail about these different parts and explain better. These plant cells, they have chloroplast, central vacuole, and the cell wall. These are three things that plant cells have that animal cells don't have. So I'm only going to talk about these three because the other ones are pretty much the same thing as the animal cells. Chloroplasts, they are kind of like mitochondria in a way. They're very often associated with mitochondria. They are the site of photosynthesis. The central vacuole is the site that provides for storage and regulation of cell volume. So it can store waste as well as water and other things. It allows for rigidity of the cell. Also, the cell wall provides for support and structure to the cell.